Hello and welcome to the Connected Yoga Teacher podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Crow. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am very grateful for the land that I am recording on today. It's the land of the Anishinaabe, Odawa, and Mississauga people. We are about 3 hours north of Toronto on the Bruce Peninsula in Ontario, Canada, and I'm so glad that you're here. If you are new here, you might not know that I'm also a mom of 3, a yoga teacher, and the founder of Pelvic Health Professionals. And speaking of my mom role in things, it is Colton's 20th birthday this week. It was actually last week, and I had a note to make sure to remind myself that's when this podcast was going out. So Colton is 20 years old now, and actually, today I just got a phone call from him that he's coming over for a visit right after he works with his new horse named Wilson. So Colton is farming full-time, also doing leather work and riding a horse that is his, and is quite a cowboy. So happy 20th birthday, Colton. It's amazing to see you grow into exactly who you want to be. Now, if you are a returning listener, you know how things go here. This podcast was created for you, the yoga teacher, so that each and every week you are connected to the information and inspiration that is going to support you as you build your yoga business. I'm guessing that you became an entrepreneur because you wanted to build your own business and set your own hours and invest in something that really matters to you and that makes a difference in this world. And I get how overwhelming all of the tasks can be at times as you build and grow a business. Now, last week I talked about what's been helping me when times feel like they're heavy, when times feel like they're tough, when I need a rest, but I still need to keep going. Today, I want to expand on that a little bit more. I want to talk about the 4 seasons of business and how we can make the most out of each one so that we do have more time, more energy, and more income as yoga teachers. Now, before we dive right into today's episode, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, OfferingTree. Last week on the podcast, I was sharing how I was just blown away by the new website page builder and how Eddie, one of the founders of OfferingTree, created an OfferingTree website for me that looks identical to my WordPress website. And some of you have been asking to see it, and you're curious what that looks like. And so I am really thrilled to tell you that Eddie is going to help me to figure out how to share it with anyone. So all of our podcast listeners, anyone in the Connected Yoga Teacher Facebook group or on my email list, you will be able to use this as a template. So you know what it's like when you look at a website and you're like, that's the kind of website I'd like to build? Eddie's going to make it so that you can use my website template and then make it your own, add your own colors, add your own photos and your own copy, and use it as an inspiration. So I'll be sharing more about that here on the podcast and for sure via my email. So make sure you're on my email list. You can do that by going over to theconnectedyogateacher.com, look on the homepage, and there's a spot there where you can make sure that you're on my email list. And if you are looking for an amazing all-in-one software designed for yoga teachers, head on over to offeringtree.com/Shannon because there's a discount code there for you. You don't have to wait for my template to be ready. You can start creating your website or doing all of your booking online and have things automated today. Today's episode is also brought to you by Pelvic Health Professionals. This is the other hat I wear out in the business world. It's an online membership for yoga teachers, PTs, movement educators, healthcare professionals, really anyone who wants to learn more about pelvic health to help those that are coming to see them. So in there, we hire guest experts from around the world to teach us the most up-to-date information. And you get to attend those calls live or catch the replay and really get your questions answered. Our members were telling me this past month, oh my goodness, Shannon, thank you so much for getting Dr. Matthew Leonardi in to talk about surgery for endometriosis. It's amazing to learn that this is not just a gynecologist that needs to know about endometriosis. It really benefits all people when all different modalities of care and movement and all of the things, all of the people that someone might go to see, it's really amazing to see the difference it can make when we all have that information. So to check that out, that call plus all kinds of other resources, visit pelvichealthprofessionals.com and you'll see lots of free information on there as well as how you can sign up if you want to learn more with us. Alrighty, let's dive right in with a question. What season are you in right now, in your life or in your business? Now, we all know the 4 seasons, or I know them really well. The season that you are at right now in your business is what we're really going to focus on today, but definitely the season of our life also impacts this. What season are you in right now, knowing that it might not align with the seasons of nature or the seasons of people around you? You may have an idea of what season you want to be in, but maybe you're not there. Maybe that's not the season you're in. A great analogy of this is if you really love summer, but it's winter where you are. I'm saying that and laughing because that's sometimes how my brain works. I sometimes fight against the winter season, and it can be the same in business as well. And keep in mind that the season that you're in might be very impacted by things outside of your control. So in real life, that might look like you're in the season of really taking care of young children or an aging parent, or you're part of a project in your community that's keeping you really busy right now. And this is very similar to what happens within the seasons when weather happens. So we had a couple of really big snowstorms in North America, and particularly where I live in Canada this winter already. We had a huge blizzard that sat over us for 3 days, and there was nothing we could do about it. It was out of our control. The roads were closed. It was right over Christmas holidays. People couldn't go where they wanted to. And so I just want you to keep in mind, you might have this idea of the season you're in, but there might be things that come up inside of that season that make us feel like, wow, things are out of my control within this season. The thing that brings me comfort thinking about the seasons of business is that seasons always change. And there's a way to embrace it and get the most out of it instead of fighting against it. Last week on the podcast, we really talked about time to refuel and rest, and this might be associated with the winter season in your business. Now, we're going to get right into that, but before we do, if you don't have seasons where you live, imagine what it's like here in Canada or maybe in some parts of the US where we have the 4 seasons. So winter, spring, summer, and fall. And then take that one step further and imagine what might be happening to a tiny little seed or some sort of plant through those 4 seasons. So let's start with winter, because that's the actual season that's happening around me and many of you as this podcast is released. But also, I want to start here because a lot of yoga teachers, colleagues, and fellow entrepreneurs have been telling me that they are tired or feeling overwhelmed and that they're not seeing the income that they had hoped for with the energy they've put out there. And these are signs of a business in the winter season. So this is a time of rest. We can think of hibernation, being in a blanket of snow. It's sometimes cold out. It feels like it isn't a time for growth, but a lot is happening. So some seeds need the cold and the frost to grow, while some seeds need to be kept inside where they cannot freeze. For some people, winter can feel like it's uninvited and it's unwelcome, both as a season with snow and cold, but also as a season in life and business. So for example, we launch something in our business, let's say it's a yoga series, like a 6-week series, and we don't have enough people signing up for it. Or we lose our momentum or our motivation for the work that we're doing. Maybe we're tired, maybe we're burned out, and we're just like, how can I keep going? How can I keep doing this? You might be in this season if you're making plans, but you're not implementing those plans yet. Or if you just feel like, wow, I really need to take a break. I need to take a rest, or I want to sign up for a course that's going to help me to grow down the road. Winter is an amazing time to evaluate what's working, to check in on what's draining you, and let go of what is no longer a good fit. As I say this right now to you, I'm thinking back in my own business and realizing that a lot of my niche work has happened in winter. And I don't mean, the winter months on the calendar, but in the winter season of my business, which sometimes does coincide with the winter season that's happening outside. I got really curious about this when January the 1st started rolling around this year, because to me, I did not feel like there was a ton of energy within me around like planning business stuff. And that's unique. And I started to ask myself why. And I think it was just, it had been a really busy season leading up to this. And I needed more of a break. I needed more of a rest. Sometimes we can't even think about planning until we take that rest. And something else I started to really look at was this question around, is January the 1st actually the best time to be really like setting huge goals, working really hard? If we look at what nature is doing, it's really taking time to rest more. The days are shorter. It's a good time to like sit by the fire with a warm tea in your hand. So maybe there's more time for reflection in this season, and maybe we're pushing something at times that doesn't really fit for us. Another thing to note is be careful not to look at friends or other businesses who are in a different season than you, because that can lead to us getting really hard on ourselves. And I want to say that social media is the place where I really feel this. If I go on social media and I see someone sharing an update or sharing something that they're offering or putting something together, and I just think, wow, look at, like maybe a summit is a good example. Like, look at that summit that someone has put together. Look at the lineup of speakers and that person is right in the season of spring and summer in their business. They're really digging in. They're doing all the work there. And that might not be where I'm at with my business. So in this season, if you are in the season of winter right now, or you think you might be, when you get there, because it will come around, ask yourself, what wisdom can you find right now when you get quiet and reflective with your business, but also your life? And what information is already there that you can look at? What data could you look at and get some more information? Maybe that is looking at your email list and seeing, okay, where am I at now compared to last year at this time? Or what was the thing that really helped me to grow my email list last year? How can I plan to do that? Reflect right now and then plan to do that when I hit the spring season in my business. Also, in this winter season, how can we rest and make space for the creativity and the growth that's coming in the next season? Okay, so the next season is spring. And this is a season of a lot of planting if you garden, but also a lot of planting seeds of ideas and creativity and projects, and a lot of work in our business as well. The days get longer and warmer. There's usually more rain in this season, and we might be feeling more energy to do new things and to modify things based on what we learned from last season. This season is all about possibility and potential, new growth. And the only way that we can get that new growth is from the rest and the reflection that we got in that winter season. Spring is a time where hopes and dreams are being planted. Creativity is flowing. We might have a lot of ideas. And with that comes the question of, what seeds do I want to plant and focus on? Because if we planted all the seeds from all the ideas in our business, how's that going to go? Like, yeah, for sure, we can't just plant one crop sometimes or one idea. We might feel like we need multiple things for our own creativity or so that we're not, quote unquote, putting our eggs all in one basket. But when we can focus in and really think, what are the seeds that I want to intentionally plant in my business? What are the projects that I want to work on? Maybe you thought that through in the winter. What are some things I'm going to let go of? This is a great time to really put the energy into something and be very focused about it. So one example of this is to consider doing a 90-day sprint in this season of spring. So it doesn't have to be a 90-day sprint by the calendar of spring. Just when you feel this bubbling up of energy and you've had some time of rest and reflection in the winter season, whenever that feels ready, what would it feel like to do a 90-day sprint where you think, okay, I've put time and energy into creating something. Maybe you've made a course or a workshop, or you've written a book, or you want to write a book or a training that you've put together. Now is the time to really focus on that, talk about it everywhere, and invite people to use this content in some way. So what would it feel like to focus on that one thing for the next 90 days? Now, before we get into the next 2 seasons, Connected Yoga Teachers, I wanted to pop in here for a moment to tell you about how I'm using OfferingTree. One, because OfferingTree is our sponsor, and I love to give them a shout out because they're supporting the podcast and bringing it to you. But also because this is really great if you are a yoga teacher who's booking anything. So I'm actually using OfferingTree right now to book in podcast guests. And I am so happy with how it's working because it makes everything in my business with regards to booking automatic. And I want to tell you because this is something that wasn't designed for podcasters. I've made it work because I really like it. It was designed for yoga teachers. So whether you offer one-on-one sessions, classes, workshops, trainings, retreats, or any other events, this is made for you. And the moment yoga teachers ask me, what software should I look at if I want to collect payments online, have a website, have people sign up, have people book, I always tell them about OfferingTree. What I really love is that I can share one link with people who are wanting to book in with me, and that will show them my calendar. It will gather the information that we need, and then everything else is automated. So there's text reminders that go out, email reminders, the Zoom link, because I record podcast episodes on Zoom. So if you are wanting less time in front of a computer screen and to automate everything that has to do with booking, make sure to check out OfferingTree, and we have a discount code for you because you are an amazing podcast listener. That's over at offeringtree.com/Shannon. Alrighty, let's get back to the seasons of your business and how to make the most of them. So the next season is summer. This is when things are growing and hopefully thriving. Using the garden analogy still, we're weeding, we're watering, we're maintaining things until harvest. There might be a bit of harvest in the summer, depending on what you plant. And there might be some waves of busy time in the summer as well. Some things don't work out in this season. If we think about gardening, there's pests, there's disease, there's weather. Sometimes there's too much rain, sometimes there's not enough. There are many factors out of our control in every season, but also definitely in summer as everything is kind of out there. And so this is the time to nurture and tend to the growth that we have. There's a little bit less work in the summer season than there is in the spring, but we still need to be there so that we can complete our projects. This is the carry the water to your plant, water it, check it, look for bugs. It's the same thing in business. We get to see the fruits of our labor. Okay, pun intended, maybe. We get to see the fruits of our labor in this season. We get to take time also to walk through this garden that we've created and feel proud of what we've done. So in this season in your business, are there some new connections or collaborations that you want to foster or create? This is a great time to work with other people. And that is really how to have a burst of growth and kind of, here's another saying from the garden, make hay while the sun shines. So people are out of their hibernation when it is the season of summer. And the same might be true when you see a lot of other people out there in the world. If you looked collectively at this might be when you hear the saying like business is booming. If we were to look at what happened with the pandemic, it was definitely a winter season for some businesses. If you were running a restaurant, definitely that was a winter season when everything got shut down with the pandemic. You might have felt that as a yoga teacher. But if you were a yoga teacher jumping online, things might have been really booming for you. Or when things opened up again and people really wanted to get back to class, this is a great example of how collectively other people might also be in the same place. Another example is you might have put together a retreat in 2019 or set some really big goals. And maybe you had no idea, like all of us, that the pandemic of 2020 was on the horizon and how it would turn things upside down in a blink. And so maybe now there might be more people out there who want to collaborate and put a retreat together, where in 2020, it was the winter season for retreats. One more example. Let's say you create a yoga offering, you plan it all out, you put it all together, you market it in the winter and the spring season, and now is the time when you see opportunities that are coming in that you didn't expect. So sometimes harvest is like that. It's really abundant and we want to be ready for it in summer. We needed to have like enough rest in that winter, enough energy in the spring, because in the summer, let's say like it's just a bounty out there. Things that you worked on, let's say you decided to get on more podcasts in the spring and really talk about what you're doing all over the place. You might see that come in summer. So just be ready. It's not really always the time to be like sitting back in the hammock with a nice drink in your hand and things are just happening. There's still work in summer. See why I started with winter? Because we need enough rest to get through all these seasons, because the next season that's coming is fall, also called autumn. And as I wrote this, like as I was writing my notes, I was thinking, why is it the only season that has two names? Anyway, total side note, I don't know the answer to the question. If you know, let me know. So the fall is harvest time. This is where we really harvest. This is where our work and our energy pays off. It's also not only a time to harvest, but it's time to clean up and get ready for the next growing season. Before we're going to get ready for winter, we'll get ready for that rest, but we might have to make some adjustments for the next season based on what we learned. So in gardening, this might be making additions to the soil. What I like to do every year is see if I can come up with cover crops, or can I cover my garden beds with some type of compost so it's like keeping the nutrients in and keeping everyone happy there in that soil. If we just keep taking from the soil and we don't take the time to replenish it with compost and with care, it will not produce well. And we are so similar in our businesses. If we just stay on this hamster wheel and we give without refueling, we are going to hit burnout or some degree of overwhelm. An example of a yoga teacher in the fall season, let's say that they put together a yoga 6-week series and it's coming to an end. It is so important in this time to get testimonials and feedback so that you can not only learn, but you can also share your offering again, and you can put testimonials out there if that offer still feels like a good fit. You might also take notes in this season so that when you go to do this again, it is a lot easier. And I get it. You can hit the end of a yoga series or a teacher training or something like that and just feel like, gosh, I just need a break. But trust me, make those notes. You'll be so surprised when you come back with that energy of spring, or you reflect back over the winter, how valuable those notes are. Fall is also a great time to save up. You see hibernating squirrels running around doing this. This is a good lesson for us in our business. And we never know when that winter season is coming. Remember when we talked about the pandemic, we did not see that coming, but a lot of us hit a winter season. So in the fall of your business, where you've had a big burst of energy, you've really, had some abundance and you've done your harvest in the fall, this is the time to save up. And that might be save up some funds. It might be saving up your time and taking some time off. This is a good time to see how much time do I need off? How much time do I need to rest and restore? Now, I have done some podcast episodes in the past that I would really encourage you to check out if you haven't already. One, I talk about ideal schedule. So that's a great place to look if you're thinking, wow, I don't know if I've planned for enough time off, or how do I do that? How do I make the most out of my time? The other one is the Reflect and Plan 4-part series. You could start to dig into that now if you're feeling like, no, this is enough. I've got enough on my plate with building in the rest and restore from last week. Now thinking, what season am I in and how can I make the most of it? Not to worry, we're going to take some more small baby steps in the next podcast episodes. These are things that I really wish I knew going into business, and the questions that I really wish I was asking myself at that time, instead of wondering how do I plan this class out? What's the best class playlist? And what should I write my email? And what about my social media post? Yeah, those things are important, but until we have the foundation, it's really hard to know where to go with those things. So those are our 4 seasons of business. You might have felt like, did I just show up for a gardening lesson? Trust me, there are so many times where I'm out in nature or out in the garden and I'm like, this is a lesson that I could use in my business or my life. And so take note of what other creatures are doing in the seasons around you. Take note of where you think you are, come into a place of awareness within your own self and your own business. And I would love to hear from you. What are your thoughts that come up? What have you noticed about the seasons of business or of life, and how do you navigate these and make the most out of them? All of the notes for today's episode are over at theconnectedyogateacher.com/309. And there you can find clickable timestamps along with any of the links that I talked about. Now, if you would like to hang out together in real time, there's one place where we can do that right now while I'm in my winter season of my business. I'm not out and about. That is online and inside of Pelvic Health Professionals. So we have a really cool call coming up January the 30th. That's today as this episode drops. We are going to have a business Q&A call talking about fueling your business. So this is where we get together as a collective. We share where we're at, and then either I share or other people in the membership share ideas of what has helped them in those times when we are really looking to have enough fuel to keep going in our business. That's the focus for this call. And then in February, we're going to be talking about birth positions with Brittany Sharp McCollum. I'm really excited about that call. So to sign up for any of that, go to pelvichealthprofessionals.com. Thank you so much, Suzanne Crunch and Sinead, for making this episode possible, and also to you, dear listener. This podcast exists because of you. And now I'll close out this week's episode with a question. What will you be doing this week to stay connected to yourself, your yoga practice, and to your community so that you can share the yoga that lights you up?